All right, Richie Mars, Drew McIntyre, and Cody Rhodes have a history, but is
Mhm.
the timing right? Is the timing weird? Does this feel like it is a marinated match for WrestlePalooza?
I mean, I think a lot of people want Cody and Drew to feud. It's just like the timing, like you said, it's kind of awkward considering that, Cody just recently defeated John Cena, turned him back babyface, and now his first challenger coming out of that is Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre wrote him off for like, what, 4 to 6 weeks, it seems like.
About that, the SmackDown after SummerSlam. So
Yeah,
whatever that is.
if anything, Drew would have been the perfect first opponent for Cody after he won the title the first time, because Drew was the hottest heel at that point, but Drew was already tangled up with the CM Punk stuff.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have to kind of like go with that one. And then Cody was kind of left in limbo with no quality heel challengers. At least now, right off the bat, Cody has a quality heel challenger in Drew McIntyre. But I think a lot of people are more or less disappointed that Drew's the first one, because usually when you're the first challenger to somebody who's the face of the company, that's usually a telltale sign that you're not going to leave with the championship.
Yeah, and that you have a level to you,
Mhm.
right? So, or you're getting a boost for a future push, presentable or whatever, right? But Drew's like in this weird spot with the company where he is extremely valuable, he's extremely talented and interesting, but it doesn't feel like he ever breaks through that ceiling that he's constantly at. Do you kind of see where I'm saying with that?
Yeah, he's definitely Lex Luger. He's definitely like that edge spot, that Triple H spot where it's like, yeah, he's a star, but he's not going to be that 1A kind of guy that you're going to go to. He's not going to be that Rock, Stone Cold, Cena, like Cody is now. And it's a very similar position to where Rollins is now, where Randy is now, and it's nothing to do with Drew. It's just like how he's portrayed. I think there was a big chance that he could have been one of the faces of the company when he was a babyface, but unfortunately, timing like didn't work out for Drew, and as a result, he just kind of was stuck in limbo. And I really feel like his loss to Roman at Clash really did hinder him for a long while. I think that like that stink of that got on him for a while. And the heel turn was probably the best decision for him, because now he can have quality storylines and quality opponents without having the stress of being that babyface. And I think Drew works a lot better as a heel anyway, because as a babyface Drew, you only need to like put people that he has to overcome. If you notice, like during his WWE Championship run, he was bigger than majority of the people he was up against. So it wasn't really that believable about him being that babyface underneath. At least with Cody, he's smaller than Drew, but also a good size where you could be like, you could put him in the ring with different guys and it'd be believable that Cody is fighting from underneath. And with Drew, it would be a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, I just don't know where Drew kind of lands. It's always just like, is he at his peak? Is this his peak? Or does he kind of yearn for more once he kind of gets a push? But he's been pushed the whole time. It's more of like the slotting of the push. And that's to my point of, is it like indicative of what they think of Drew having him out here first versus Cody like this? Or is it just kind of like it's timing? But the timing doesn't feel like marinated, like I said earlier. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Here's an interesting question for you. Do you think Drew McIntyre will main event a WrestleMania again?
I think it's highly possible. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's
Especially
the
with the
answer.
especially with the two nights, I do think that it's more likely Drew will get another main event in the future.
The two nights definitely help. Do you think that he'll ever be a baby face like he was at WrestleMania 36 again?
I don't think you could capture that lightning in a bottle again with Drew, because his run, like from that Rumble in 2020 to WrestleMania, like they were putting him over Brock consistently, and nobody was doing that at that point in time. And Brock Lesnar in 2020 was a much different beast than he would be now if you were to replicate that again. And I really do feel like the only time where I think like Drew could like comparatively get that momentum is if he were to face Roman again. And now is the perfect time to do so, considering that Roman is babyface, Drew is a heel, and it would just like make sense for Drew to get a little bit of a kickstart if he were to actually get his victory over Roman again. But it doesn't seem like WWE wants to go in that direction. And if you notice with Drew McIntyre and the timing of all these different pushes that he's getting, it's always against guys who aren't consistently on the show. Not to any fault of Drew, but with CM Punk, he had the triceps tear. With Cody, he was written off of television, filming Street Fighter, having a newborn child at home. So Drew is carrying most of the weight. So WWE trusts Drew to get like that program across. But the thing is, he's not interacting with anybody that can kind of prolong his character further if there's no consistency there. And I think that's the biggest hamperage of Drew McIntyre currently in WWE is just consistency and working with people that push Drew to that level.
Yeah, I'm curious. And then the final question about Drew before we kind of bounce over to Cody is, I think you agree with me that he will again be a world champion. Do you think he'll be a babyface or a heel when that time comes?
I think there's more like I hate saying more money because they're making money either
More
way.
Interest, more juice, more juice.
It'd be more juice if he was a heel, to be honest with you. Like I feel like there's a lot more baby faces that he could face as opposed to heels if he were to switch again hypothetically. And I really do think that Drew would flourish in that heel champion role, but at the same time, it's like the timing's just not right as of this moment.
See, this energy that he has as a heel, I think could make for an extremely cool, kick-ass baby face, like walking tall type of thing, and stand on business type of role. And then he just would ditch the chicken shit stuff that he kind of portrays as a heel, and he could have like a real badass baby face run in him.
Honestly, like I'm gonna pitch you something, and you could say it's good or bad or no or anything. Wouldn't Drew be in a better would fit more better in the role that Rollins currently is than Rollins is right now?
Yeah, I think Rollins stinks as a top guy. You don't have to ask me about that one. I think that he is the personification of that Drew spot that he's in now. The gatekeeper can go down to the mid card or upper mid card, but he is a main eventer. I just think that him leading the vision is he's the least interesting party.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying with Drew is like Drew actually has like a legitimate, not saying Rollins doesn't have a legitimate reason to go after Roman, but Drew's reason is much more interesting.
Yeah.
And Drew's reasons for his turn is much more interesting because he was screwed by the bloodline. And again, it just seems like this plot thread is never going away until Drew finally faces Roman. Because the whole catalyst for Drew being heel in the first place is
the whole chip on the shoulder that's from there. Yeah. He can't overcome it. It always gets in his way with these feuds.
Yeah, so I feel like that's the missing piece that Drew McIntyre currently has. It's just that finish with Roman. I feel like he would have been a better fit for that main antagonist for Raw, just because I feel like he'd be a lot more interesting of a bad guy for Roman to overcome than Seth currently.
It just doesn't fit with Punk because they already been there, done that. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting question. But I would prefer Drew McIntyre in kind of any role over Seth Rollins. I don't want to be a Seth Rollins hater. I think he's immensely talented and has warranted the opportunities that he's got. I just don't think that he has fully outkicked the pushes that he's got. He always seems to be the least interesting guy when he's in those type of scenarios, right at top. So
right.
All right, there's no other guy really on that I rotate in here to talk about Cody Rhodes. How does Cody Rhodes feel pulse-wise coming out of the Cena stuff? It's like we did the whole Cena thing. We the year-long run, we lost it to Cena. There was some damage there in my eyes towards Cody, not like from money standpoint or whatever, just because there was this character-wise. It's like, all right, 39. You kind of screwed yourself because you didn't look ahead through the forest and see that Solo and the bloodline was in the way. 40, you played your cards correctly to set yourself up for success, right? Month before WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, the heel turn was they showed you their hand. And then you knew the cards going in at WrestleMania 41 and understand that they didn't really protect him. And he looked like the biggest stooge out of all of them in a way. So he had some time off, came back at Saturday night's main event, was in the tag, did some stuff with Logan Paul, did some stuff hovering around Cena. And now it's just like, what is Cody Rhodes? It's just like full circle. We ran around in the summer until I got my belt back, but now I'm the champion. And is Drew more interesting than me? I got the belt and I went away for 4 weeks. So what's the pulse of Cody Rhodes kind of?
I think it's more with Cody because you just had this long arc with the Cena heel turn, which was the catalyst for a lot of things. But unfortunately, like you said, it made Cody look like a goober. It made like pretty much anybody Cena was facing because people weren't accepting of the heel turn. And I think we're gonna be in depth with the heel turn in a future video probably. But the Cody Rhodes, it's really tough to be in the position Cody's in because he's that top baby face, right? And because he's that top baby face, you're going to have to be squeaky clean to a certain degree. And especially with SmackDown, how it's portrayed, I think the biggest hindrance of what SmackDown currently is that like no one else, at least in the babyface market, is getting over to the degree Cody is, which is fine. But at the same time, when Cody's not on the show, it's definitely noticeable to like how lacking the show is. And I think with Cody, you got to have more development in there. And Drew is the most interesting person you could put in that situation. And then I feel like Randy would be the next logical follow up to that. But as a whole, it's like you have all these different guys that Cody's already interacted with on SmackDown. You know, you have Solo and his crew, you have Jacob, you have Sammy, you have all these different guys, you have Mello, you have Miz. But again, there's no one really built up for Cody Rhodes on SmackDown at this point. It's almost like he has to do like double the work, like seemingly. At least like as we saw in his first run, you know, he basically had to carry Solo to make him look like a credible main event guy. With Drew, you don't have that problem, but at the same time, it's like they're relying a little bit too much on the Cody Drew history of it all. You know, they've had promos in the past. They've had a match on Raw in the past with Drew won with help of the Bloodline.
Yeah.
But now both of them are such in like different places than that match now that it's like the story does make sense. You have Drew who pretty much did the same thing that Cody did, but he did it first. And then he's bitter because, oh, look what happened to me. Once they're done with you, they toss you to the side like I did, like they did with me. And then he's trying to show light. But again, we haven't gotten that interaction where it's like the promo battles you know these guys can have or could have. Now, again, I know circumstances out of our control, you know, movie schedules, birth of job. Cody was going to be busy regardless. And I feel like with the WWE Championship, everything is leading towards more personal between Cody and Drew than it is about the title. And I feel like that's a dangerous spot for it to be in.
Yeah, I don't feel like I brought up timing earlier wise.
Mhm.
And you made some good points about Cody, but I want to make this point before I make touch your points on Cody. Cadence of schedule, like we have Crown Jewel in Perth after this. That's going to be Seth versus Cody most likely, right? If they keep up with that gimmick. And then we have a Saturday night's main event before the Survivor Series. Do they have a rematch here? Because I don't think this is a one-off. This Drew's too big of a name, and SmackDown is, like you said, Richie, so thin up top of heels that, especially new to Cody, right? That this cannot be a one-off. They need to kind of do more and get into it more. And you look at the lineups of shows, it's like, unless if they do it on a big SmackDown or Saturday night's main event, and then you presume that maybe they do it at War Games if these guys are not in War Games. So I don't know. I guess I kind of answered my own question, but is this like a one-off, or this is desperately needed to kind of go into months and months and months for SmackDown?
And this is definitely not a one-off. It has to
Yeah.
continue on because like we're talking about, like the SmackDown roster for Cody to work with isn't like pronounced. And I think a lot of people will point to it's because they got rid of the third hour. But to be honest, it's like it was like that before. You know, Cody didn't really have much to work with when he was champion. You know, you had the AJ feud, which was successful. You had Logan Paul for a stint, then back to AJ. And then you had Solo. Then you have KO, which took him to basically it took him all the way to WrestleMania that next year. And for this, I think where they're looking for is you get Drew, then you get Randy, and then most likely it's going to be Cody and Punk. At least that's my vantage point.
Yeah.
And you know, those three names back to back to back, I think
That's
is
huge.
good for that's like huge for Cody, and it's a lot of back to back to back feuds. I'm just very curious to see how the Cody train progresses from there, because the only time we've seen people like vocally against Cody was against Cena and against Randy and King of the Ring. or the what was Night of Champions, King of the Ring, whatever. And because of that, I really do think that we're in a mode where they're trying to get Cody's momentum back. But as you heard on SmackDown, like, fans are still with Cody. You know, they're still with him. And with Drew, he's propped up as the guy who Cody's gonna beat, like, repetitively. I think the first one here might be a part of a longer story, you know, maybe like Crossroads and Drew's foot is under the bottom rope or something. And that, gives them an out for another match. And then maybe like a Randy triple threat match here and there. And then you segue to Cody and Randy potentially.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the intrigue is mostly going to happen now that we're going to see Cody a little bit more consistently on SmackDown. I think that's going to be a tremendous benefit for Cody at least. But then the question is, well, where does Drew go from here? You know, I think like the next logical point is probably Drew and Sammy again, because you still have the gimmick of Sammy doing the open challenge. And then you have Drew, who is more or less undefeated against Sammy, I believe. I think he's like 7-0 or something crazy like that. And, you know, and then you build that story.
Okay, I got two things before we got out of here. They're both questions, right? Mm-hmm. So the first one being revolving around Cody Rhodes. Not many superstars see the heights that Cody saw at WrestleMania 41. But coming out of WrestleMania 41, you kind of went over AJ, Solo, Logan, and so on and so forth, KO. Has Cody Rhodes seen his height throughout that run of WrestleMania 40 to 41? Will he ever get to that height again as champion?
As champion, I don't.
From an interest level, from a star power level, from an overall feeling level. Like, that's a big-ass bar. But people thought his run was kind of melatonin-ish, but I thought it was a pretty good run in retrospect, right? Do you think he'll hit that high of a run or that height of a WrestleMania 40?
I think this run has potential to be better than that one. Because I think a lot of people saw when Cody won at Mania 40 that it's like, oh, he's going to take it to the next year's Mania.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that made it an air of predictability just because of the challengers that were set up. But now you have potentially McIntyre, Randy, and then Punk. I think that adds a little bit more intrigue to it, and you don't see as many filler as people would like to say with Cody on top. And as it pertains to buzz, I think the most intriguing that Cody can get, other than the Punk match, would probably be another match with Roman.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the only direction to go is that third matchup. But who knows if that's even going to be on the cards. I think the biggest buzz that Cody had, at least for WrestleMania 40, was the SummerSlam of this year. You know, he had arguably John's best match of his retirement run and probably John's best match in the past, give or take, like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah. All right. And the second question, well, first of all, to answer my question and my question to you, I am unsure. I don't know. Like, this run he has here potentially has much more star power, but I thought he made chicken salad out of chicken shit last year, right? You know, AJ, he's a big name, but he's on the back nine, right? Solo, that was kind of a catastrophe that we kind of knew, but like
people were calling AJ washed during that Cody feud, like before the France and Backlash happened. So like again, it just like Cody was given opponents that weren't necessarily, you know, lighting the world on fire. And even they admitted with the KO feud that KO wasn't even on fire during that, but he still made it work.
Yeah, well, my saying, not that I don't think Cody's on fire right now, but I don't think that he's at the height or the yearning for him will never get to WrestleMania 40, right? But I don't know if, I don't want to say he's stale or whatever, but I don't feel that he has the juice. We'll use that juice word again now. So my second question would it be the worst booking decision ever, or would it be an interesting booking decision just to flip this belt to Drew? No harm, no foul. You don't have the stink of the Cena run on that title, like where it's wishy-washy. You kind of flip it to Drew. Cody goes on a chase, and that's our WrestleMania 42 main event for night one, so to speak, right? Is that a bad idea, or what do you think?
I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. I would like to see Drew as champion again. I would say it's more of a, I don't want to say unnecessary either, because with Cody, you know, you just get the torch.
In a way, he's bulletproof. In a way, he's bulletproof.
Yeah, in a way, he is bulletproof. Yeah. Like, people are still reacting to him, and people are still acting at least positively towards him overall. The thing is, it's like, if Drew wins, hypothetically, you know, Cody, you know, had the pass torch to John, like John passed the torch to Cody, and then immediately falls to Drew. I'm not sure if like that means like the Cena moment is wasted in that regard.
Yeah.
Because it's like, again, Cody like was the one to turn Cena back to babyface, at least within storyline.
Yeah.
And I think with Cody, you have to show him at least a little bit like, okay, he's this generation's John Cena, for a lack of better term. Even though I would like to see Drew as champion, and then you could have Drew and Cody go against WrestleMania 42. I think that Cody retaining is probably the best decision just overall. Like short term, great. Wonderful moment for Drew, gets him some momentum. But then if it like let's say he drops it back to Cody in a month or two, then it doesn't really do anything for Drew in the long run, depending on what's next or what's after. With Cody, at least we know what's after. You got Drew McIntyre, you got Randy Orton, and potentially CM Punk all lined up. With Drew, it's a little bit more unclear because he's going through Cody now. He went through Randy already. And you have
Randy again, it seems like.
yeah, going for the Randy, and potentially I think the next biggest babyface name is probably Sammy, which Drew has already gone through 10 times over at this point. So it's just one of those things where if Drew wins the title now, there's nobody else to step up for him. Probably like LA Knight would have been a good contender.
LA would have been good, but
yeah, LA would have been good. Like Drew, like Damian Priest, you have. And even with Cody, like Aleister Black would even be a good option. But at the same time, with Drew, if he wins the title now and he gets back past Cody in this period potentially, then there's nothing else for Drew to do with the title.
Yeah, just to touch on key moments on during our discussion, to kind of make a pitch for it is like we talked about Cody's popularity, and the only real stink of it is that he suffered the most from WrestleMania 41, in my opinion.
Yeah.
From a character aspect. And there was some goodwill coming out of the match quality at SummerSlam to kind of be like, all right, well, he can still go. He got that out of Cena. Meta brought it out of Cena. Character-wise, he landed Cena home on the right side of the fence. So it's just like, let's completely wash it off and flip the title to Drew. And then let's invest in the Cody character and have him go on the chase again. That's the only reason I kind of pitched it and shaped this whole preview around it in a way off the rip, right? So honestly, it's a big night, WrestlePalooza. Mm-hmm. It's a massive night. I don't think that the Brock and Cena match is necessarily going to steal the headlines. You kind of know what you're going to kind of get. Like, is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? Is kind of the talking point coming out of that. There's the Vicaire match. It's ice cold in a way. The Usos are back, but that's a Raw match. Let's be frank, right? And then we're in the 7th inning of the Seth in the Punk stuff. Like in the Wifes, it's cool nostalgia. This is the match to steal the headlines in a surprise. Mm-hmm. I'd throw it middle of the show, 4th, 3rd, just flip it, shock. This is what you remember the show about. Like I wouldn't rule it out, honestly.
Yeah. I see this match very similar to how we previewed the Randy Orton Cody Rhodes match, where it's like it's going to be a good step one of this entire feud, of this entire rivalry. And I think like they're going to give us enough that makes us want to see another match, but it's not going to be like, that Cena Cody match that we saw at SummerSlam. It's not going to be that Cody KO ladder match that we saw at the Rumble. It's going to build up to that peak, and then we're going to go for that crescendo from there. And this is going to be like, again, a first stage one. I feel like we're going to get not a finalized ending or a conclusive ending. Like I said, I think like, Cody getting
the next chapter.
Yeah. Something that's going to give us the next chapter. And they already kind of teased it with the Randy Orton punt kick. You know what I mean? I feel like that's going to be the next kind of like, I guess, arc for Cody and potentially Randy, because, Randy's been hyping up the punt kick since he returned from that pile driver. And I feel like that's going to be very pivotal in the Cody Rhodes title run eventually. But right now it's like, this is going to be a good, like, step one in the Cody Drew story overall.
Yep. All right, Richie, good stuff. 25 minutes on this match. That's ice cold. So I think we did our part. Richie, we'll see you on the next one, buddy.
Thank you for having me.